Here we go. Hey, everybody, welcome to Fatso Radio, episode number 54. Can you believe it? Episode number 54. I can barely believe it. So let's get right into it. I want to talk about blood sugar. I want to talk about diabetes. I want to talk about insulin resistance, wherever this goes. I want to talk about the pancreas. I want to talk about the liver. I want to talk about all of this stuff. Again, I'm not a doctor, folks. I'm not a scientist, but this is some very, very common knowledge, and you can easily find this knowledge, and you can fact check me on it. And if I'm wrong, let me know, because I definitely want to make sure I'm sending out the right message. None of the stuff that I'm talking about is controversial, so it should be. If it's not accurate, like I said, let me know. I want the right information to come out. So thanks again for listening. Thank you, everybody for listening. Again, in your comments and your emails, and just your love. So I want to get right into it. Blood sugar. What do I mean by that? So your body has two main fuel sources, right? So what does that mean? You can run on fuel. I was taught growing up that your body can run on glucose primarily for fuel. I don't even think, I don't know how I was taught how you can run on fat, but it just, your body needed glucose, you needed carbohydrates, so that was it. But really, your body can run on two main fuel sources. It really is going to need both, of course. It's always going to tap into both, but it can primarily or preferentially use two different, or a mix, of course, right? Carbohydrates or fat. So, and this is to obtain energy. That's the whole purpose of it. Protein can be used for energy, of course, a little bit, but it's mostly used for repairing and building, and many other things, DNA repair and stuff like that. But it's not really primarily used as a fuel source, right? So fats or carbohydrates are. So let's start with carbohydrates, but let's get right into blood sugar. So when you're talking about blood sugar, there's always a safe range of blood sugar, right? Outside of that range is a problem. Low obviously is too low, high is too high. But really, if you want to talk about a range, just for get a bar or kind of a level set, you know what I'm talking about. For a fasting blood sugar range, people usually say, or the reference range in Canada, between 4 to 7 millimolars per liter, right? Or yeah, millimolars per liter. So basically, they'll just say between 4 to 7. In the U.S., or probably also elsewhere in Europe and Asia as well, maybe they'll say between 4 to 7 millimolars per liter. And in the US, it's between 80 and 130 milligrams per deciliter. And that works out to be around 4.4 to 7.2 millimolars if you convert it to the metric system. So it's, or not the metric system. Yeah, I don't know. It's still metric, but it's just a different unit system. So it's very similar, but if you're out of that range, obviously it's a problem. And if you're below that range, of course it's a problem. But if you're above that range, it's a problem as well. Most of the problems that we are going to run into, and most of the problems, the most common problems, of course, are going to be around high blood sugar. So let's talk about that. And I want to talk about just diabetes and the whole thing around what it is. So again, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not bashing anybody. If I give you an idea, or if I give my opinion on an idea, it is my opinion on the idea, right? So again, I'm not a doctor, but it's my opinion on the idea, not the person itself. And I never want to make this personal. I get into a lot of debates, whether it's Facebook or whether it's whatever, just online with friends. And it's easy. I don't have a problem doing it, because it does always, for my luck, it's been always very, very, respectful and all that, because they are friends and they are family. But I want to extend that to everybody, because it is easy. It is hard sometimes to talk about this stuff, and it is hard sometimes because we have strong feelings, we have strong convictions, and even people that we know and care about and love. Especially those people, right? So those have the difficult time sometimes seeing it, but also strangers who have a difficult time. So anyway, I want to get into that again. I'm not bashing anybody's ideas, and I'm not, again, I'm not giving you advice to go home and change everything and forget what your doctor says and all that stuff. Always check with your doctor. But I wanted to point out a couple things that aren't controversial. I want to give you my ideas, right? So let's talk about diabetes, and let's talk about the most common type of diabetes, and it's the growing type of diabetes. It's type 2 diabetes. I want to talk about type 1 later on, which is very different, of course. It's somewhat similar, of course, on a lifestyle basis, but different as far as how the body reacts and how the body, in kind of the root, I guess, right? But type 2 diabetes, right? Basically, in a nutshell, it's when your pancreas, which is the organ, right, that produces insulin, when it doesn't produce enough insulin on its own to keep up with the demands of the body, right? So what are the demands? The demands are needed to counteract the levels of glucose in your body, in your blood rather, and that's it. So how does glucose get in your blood, and why is it in your blood? And what is the job of insulin and all that stuff? How does it balance itself out? That's what I want to talk about. And that's when it comes down to how. So how does your blood sugar get raised? Quite simply, is just do it. There's a couple different ways. Of course, stress is one way that I'm not going to talk about tonight a little bit. Um, Also, exercise will raise your blood sugar a little bit, of course. But the main way and the most impactful way of raising your blood sugar, and I guess in the adverse way, the way that you can change it and affect it, your health and everything is from going to be from your diet. So eating carbohydrates, right? Carbohydrates are everything from a simple sugar, excuse me, complex carbohydrate, a simple carbohydrate, so fruit, to vegetables, to candy, which is just sweets or pastries, or um, when we're talking about carbohydrates, we're talking about healthy stuff and we're talking about shit stuff, right? So we're just talking about the nutrition. This is not controversial. A carbohydrate is a molecule, a macronutrient, carbohydrate, fats, and proteins, right? So innately, there's nothing wrong with a carbohydrate. Yes, I said it, folks. Nothing wrong with a carbohydrate. But again, I want to talk a little later that there's no biological need. Sorry, there's a biological need, of course, for glucose, but there's no nutritional dietary need for glucose because your liver can produce its own, and it does on a regular basis. Even if you are eating a carbohydrate-rich diet, your liver's still producing carbohydrate. Your liver's still producing glucose, rather. It's probably going to produce a lot less because you're taking a lot in than mine would because I'm not taking much in, but it definitely does. So let's get back to it again. When you eat carbohydrates, right, it affects your blood sugar. So again, that's not controversial or not. When you eat something, whether it's some potatoes, or you eat some beans, or you eat some lentils, I guess, or squash, or whatever it is, pasta, bread, anything that has carbohydrate in it will raise your blood sugar. There's many things, of course, they raise blood sugar at different levels, right? The glycemic index, or the glycemic index of something, is the rate at that, or the impact of that food on your blood sugar, right? That's the glycemic index. How much of this food, or sorry, 100 grams of this food or 1 gram of this food will raise your blood sugar this much on average. So, things like white flour have the highest glycemic index. I believe it's even higher than white sugar or table sugar, which is interesting because I'm pretty sure that white flour is going to have a lot more glucose in it, pure glucose, right? And then than flour, or than white sugar would, or table sugar, because table sugar is going to have glucose and fructose in it, right? Which fructose is have sucrose and have glucose. But let's get back to how does your blood sugar get raised? When you eat something that has carbohydrates in it, and most of us eat carbohydrates, right? I grew up eating mostly carbohydrates, not like 100% carbohydrates, of course, but a fair amount of carbohydrates, probably 60 to 70%, maybe not that high, but probably 60, 70%. But it's in bread, it's in fruit, it's in vegetables, it's in good wholesome food, right? Whole foods, there's carbohydrates in it, and like I said, there's nothing really wrong by the carbohydrate itself. It's all about the level of carbohydrates you eat. Even the fact that I go on a rampage sometimes, and I'll just bang the drum and I'll say fuck sugar or whatever. It's not because just 1 gram of sugar is wrong, or evil, or gonna kill us or whatever, but it's because it's the amount that we're inundated by, and the amount that we see, and the amount that it's shoved in our face every single day. And because of the amount that we have shoved in our face every single day, that's why we want more, and that's why we do crave more. So that's what I want to talk about later on as well. But to continue on, so when you eat something that has carbohydrates in it, your blood sugar will raise, right? Um, After you eat, an hour after, 2 hours after, and it will depend, and it will vary. Actually, your blood sugar will probably spike after 2 hours after your meal, and then it'll start to lower again. And the rate that it lowers at means something, right? And the rate that it spikes at means something, and the inability to lower again after, like I said, that means something. It means that how can your body respond, or how well does your body respond? So if you're eating a meal that has carbohydrates in it and it raises your blood sugar, right? High blood sugar is very, very dangerous. High blood sugar can put you into uh, coma, or put you into all kinds of stuff, right? It's associated with a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to get into that. And there's also low blood sugar, right? Can cause a lot of problems as well. So it's so vital that we have a very stable and very maintained, a very balanced blood sugar level. And it's interesting, not interesting, it's sad, but also very clear, um, that it's obvious now how important that blood sugar level is. because we see like that's a pretty tight range if you think about it. I mean, what does a millimolar mean? I don't know, right? And what does that mean, translate to a real life? But you could probably, if you're diabetic and you're type 2 diabetic, or if you're type 1 diabetic, even more so, you can probably figure out, if you do some carb counting, how much a gram of sugar will do, how much 20 grams, how many 30 grams will do, how many 40 grams or 50 grams or 150 grams. You probably even need to know that, right, for the most part, to help balance it out. But when you eat that carbohydrate, right, it raises your blood sugar, right? And your blood sugar can't, first of all, can't go too high, right? I mean, there's a limit that's going to go, obviously, but that's, and when it goes too high, or when it goes to a certain threshold, that's when your body it kicks in insulin, right? So your pancreas pumps out insulin to lower that blood sugar back to a safe level, right? So I'm going to go back to that, but as it does that, oftentimes, and it will actually lower that blood sugar then back to below that base level, and that's when it causes a craving, or that's when it causes these hungers. You often want more sugar or more glucose, right, or more carbohydrates rather. But as your blood sugar is high, and as insulin is bringing that down, it's bringing it down because it's dangerous. So if high blood sugar is so dangerous, let's think about this. I mean, and sometimes I just spend too much time thinking about it, or kind of dig down some rabbit holes. But I'm like, it's so dangerous, high blood sugar, that your body we have a fail-safe mechanism built in, that we have insulin. Thank God, apparently, because if we didn't, right, we would die. High blood sugar, would you eat it? I guess if we don't have insulin, you just eat out blood sugar, and it would cause seizures, and it would cause bleeds, probably. I don't know, like, there's all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's so dangerous that our body has evolved a way to counterbalance, like everything else. Our bodies, evolved to balance everything, to counterbalance that glucose level, because it's dangerous, remember? But it is useful, of course, right? But because like I said earlier, because your liver can produce gluconeogenesis, right? Glucose, neogenesis, creating new, right? It can do that from your liver. Sorry, it does that. Your body does that within its liver, and it does that from proteins. It can do that from some fatty acids as well. So our bodies are miraculous, folks. We have this amazing ability to run. We just run on our own. We just need some fuel. We need the right fuel, and forever we had the right fuel, and no question of the ship fuel. But without going any further, your blood sugar is lowered from insulin because it's dangerous, and how your blood sugar, what insulin does with your blood sugar is it stores it. It stores it in your muscle glycogen. If you've recently worked out or exercised, or have used that muscle glycogen, or recently depleted that muscle glycogen. So you can deplete muscle glycogen just from fasting. You can deplete muscle glycogen from working out. You can deplete muscle glycogen probably just from taking a day off, even if you're just someone who has a lot of muscle mass on you, right? And you have a lot of body weight and a lot of water. I'm imagining someone who's a couple of 200 pounds and they're in great shape. Not me, someone who's in better shape. But if you got a lot of muscle on you, man, you got a lot of water. You need a lot of that muscle. You just need a lot of what am I saying? Glycogen to have to keep that muscle ready. And that's the thing about glycogen. So glycogen is the way that your body can store. It's only a limited way that your body can store carbohydrate as a carbohydrate. The other way that it stores carbohydrates is it converts it into fat, and it stores it on your ass. My ass too, believe me, and my belly, my arms, my butt, I got everything. So that's the thing. Like so it lowers your blood sugar. And how does it do that? It lowers your blood sugar by shoving it in your muscles. If you've just used it, great. Shoving it back to your liver if your liver needs it, because your liver just produced some glucose if you haven't had a meal, right? Or if you've just worked out, your liver gluconeogenesis, right? And your liver, so it's lowering your blood glucose by shunting your liver, shunting it essentially to your liver, or to your muscles, or to your fat, right? Extra carbohydrates, or excess carbohydrates, really, if you don't need it, after that, it's going to go to your fat. So if one of the ways that I was 330 pounds, or 320 and 310 and 300 everything, and one of the ways that I'm still the weight I am, I mean, I'm still on a decline, so I think most of my processes are the opposite way, but I'm still gaining weight, right? Sometimes you gain weight and you lose weight in the same day, right? It's going to happen. You're always in a flux. But generally speaking, if you're flexing downward, or if you're angling downward, or whatever, That's one thing. Or you can be angling upward, which I did for many, many years, and which people struggle with for many, many years. And this is, again, one of the reasons why, basically the reason why I'm doing this, because I want to help you with the same shit that I had problems with, and I still do have problems with. So I'm learning and I'm struggling with it. So after your insulin does its job, in the best case scenario, remember, after your insulin does its job and lowers your blood sugar by putting into your liver your muscle glycogen, and then your fat cells, right? Only then will it be okay, or then will it be lowered again. So just imagine if it takes you a long time to get down to a kind of a safe blood sugar level, then what's going on, right? Is it because insulin is taking longer to do its job? Is it because it's storing more fat? It depends what your situation is, right? So, but what it's doing is that but then once your insulin goes down again, right? Once your insulin is levels high, that means your glucose level is down again. Then you're gonna get hungry. But before that, I want to talk about what what happens when you have high insulin levels, right? So if you constantly have high glucose levels or high carbohydrates levels in your food, so let's connect the dots, right? High carbohydrates in your food, high carbohydrate or high glucose levels in your blood. Even if you're not diabetic, we're not even talking about diabetes yet, which I want to talk about. But even if you're not, then you're always going to have, if your blood sugar is always high or higher, right? Even if it's not by diabetic, but you're still in the safe range. If you're around 6.75 or 6.9 or whatever, or 7, or even if you're 7.5, you're not diabetic or whatever. That means that most likely you're also gonna have chronic high levels of insulin, right? And again, folks, this is not my stuff. You can read about this, you can Google, you can Wikipedia. I just want to share from my perspective. But so this is how I see it. If you're chronically, and doctors and everybody sees it as well, and many people see it. If you have chronic levels of high insulin, right, because your levels of glucose have been high in blood sugar, then you're also going to have a chronic state of what happens when you have high insulin, right? So insulin is a growth factor, right? There's been a lot of scares about growth factors, right? There's a lot of scare about having a high growth factors from cancer, from just the fact of gaining weight, right? So growth factor means that your body's going to be growing, and what your body's going to be growing, everything grows. And what does that mean exactly? We don't know. I don't know exactly, but you don't want high levels of growth factor all the time, right? You just don't want to do that, especially from a weight perspective. How are you ever going to grow weight if you're growing it from that perspective? Also, it stores it, right? So high levels of um, um, insulin means that it's always going to be looking to store, always looking to be a store of foods. Like if your insulin level is high, the next thing you eat, boom, it's going to try and store it again. It's going to try and store it again. And when that's high, right, you're you virtually can't burn fat, and it's hard to burn fat. So if you exercise hard, you're going to blow through that glycogen. You're going to blow through your muscle glycogen, right? You're going to blow through your liver glycogen, maybe even. You're going to be starving. Your blood sugar might take a tank, right? Where my blood sugar might actually take a rise because it's not that volatile per se, because I don't eat as many carbohydrates, but you may, or somebody may, or whatever the scenario is. Average Joe may. But that's the thing, right? So you may tank. What was I going to talk about? But anyway, yeah. So if you eat that, carbohydrate meal, and then your blood sugar goes down, right? And then you need to eat more to bring your blood sugar up again, right? And you can't. Oh, how can you lose weight? You can't lose weight because with a high insulin level, you're not tapping into, you're not unlocking the key on the fat cells when insulin is around, because insulin is a fat storage, right? Insulin is a growth factor. Its job is to store things, and to shuttle them away, and it's not good at it's not going to let you burn fat. You can't burn fat. So if you have to burn through all your muscle glycogen, burn through all your liver, then maybe you can tap into your fat stores, right? But at that point, right, you've burned through your liver glycogen, you burn through your blood sugar, right? And then you're starving, and then maybe that's the wall. Maybe that's the if you can do that and you're still in good shape and you're still in good health and you can tap into the fat stores, of course, especially babies can do that, young children can do that, most people can do that at a young age, and if they're in a healthy weight and all that stuff. But if you're approaching diabetes, and if you're talking about diabetes, which then comes after insulin resistance, right, which just basically means that your body a lot of cells in our body use insulin, right? I think most of the cells actually, or definitely the muscle, the organs use insulin. You can be insulin resistant in your liver, you can be insulin resistant in your muscles. If you're insulin resistant, say in your liver or in your pancreas, or where, in your liver specifically, when you need to lower that the blood glucose levels, that means you need more insulin, right? So that's the stage before diabetes, right? But if that's the case where you can't lose weight because you're always going to have high insulin levels because your glucose is level high, that's leads to, then I guess next thing is type 2 diabetes, right? When your body can't keep up with it, right? Your body can't keep up with it, so you either need to take medicine or medicine or then insulin, right? So I'm not telling anybody to go change what they're doing. I'm not telling anybody to go challenge a doctor, but I am asking you to go talk to your doctor, because this is an option. This is an option. The Canadian Diabetes Society now, I think, let me see this right here. Diabetes.co.uk I saw today, and I think the Canadian Diabetes Association has as well. Ketosis is an option in there. So go talk about it. Go think about it. Go ask about it, because this is what I want to say about it. And this is what my whole kind of thing is. This makes sense on more than just a physiological level and a weight and a waistline level. This makes sense on a eating habit level and on a relationship with food level. I'll tell you why. So okay. So it's not crazy and it's not funny or whatever to think that if you have an illness, or if you have a condition, right, or you have an issue that's about blood sugar, and we're talking about an inability to maintain a certain level of blood sugar, right? It does make sense to say, let's look at what we're eating. Let's lower the amount of carbohydrates we eat. And okay, that's fine. We can accept that now. Keto's been around for a while. Paleo has been around for a while. Carnivore diet's been around for a while. We're not talking about carnivore as well. It's interesting about glucose, but all this has been around, right? And so it's okay, great. That's easy. We understand now. You can just remove the carbs, but it's not that easy. But it takes time, right? And you need a plan. One of the reasons, so there's lots of benefits of going into ketosis. There's lots of benefits of lowering your carbohydrates. I'll tell you many of them. Let's talk about it right now. When you lower your the amount of carbohydrates in your diet, right? So every time you eat a meal, if there's not many carbohydrates in that meal, or if there's no carbohydrates in your meal, you won't spike you won't spike your blood sugar as much. You may spike your blood sugar a little bit. Sometimes people don't spike their blood sugar at all when they're eating fat and protein, but you may a little bit. And if you do, and it's just a little bit, it doesn't take your body much work to bring it down to baseline again, right? This takes time. This takes a lot of patience, and there's something that we are born with. The body tap into our fat cells, right? Ketosis, but a lot of people have a hard time with it, and including me. And if I get off the rails, I have a hard time getting back. And so it's crazy. It's not crazy. Sorry, it's difficult. But that's the thing. If you lower the amount of carbohydrates you eat, you lower the amount of complex carbohydrates, pastas, breads, grains, root vegetables, even vegetables itself, green leafy vegetables. If you lower the amount of carbohydrates itself that you eat, you're going to have a stable blood sugar level. And if you don't eat that much carbohydrates at all, your body will then, because it's not getting that constant fuel shuttle to it from insulin, right? You're still gonna have insulin spikes at certain times when you exercise and things like that, because your blood sugar might spike, or when you just regularly eat something, might get a little insulin spike. Some protein amino acids get insulin spike, which is good. Like I said, insulin is not a terrible thing, but high insulin is a terrible thing. So if you eat a low carbohydrate diet, right, and you don't spike your blood sugar all the time, and you're not playing that insulin game, and then you have you on one hand force your body, right, to be able to tap into fat. And you kind of do it by forcing by forcing it at first to do it. You have no choice. Lower the carbohydrates. So demands, it forces, okay, I know where to go now. I'm going to deplete my muscle glycogen. That's why a couple of days is hard, right? That's why sometimes you feel like a flu, because you are depleting your muscle glycogen. You are essentially dehydrating yourself for a couple of days until you're, at the same time you want to hydrate yourself, at the same time you want to give yourself salt, but you're kind of switching the gears a little bit in your body. Not a little bit, a lot. To say, hey, we have fuel system 1, fuel system 2. We're using both normally, but we usually use fuel system A. We're going to use fuel system B now a lot more, right? So it takes some time to adjust. And the body, I think probably the biggest adjustment to going keto is really the keto flu is really a withdrawal from carbohydrates. I'll say that, right? I gotta say that. I always say them, the addiction to sugar and everything. So if you're tapping into fat for stores, and if your body has the ability to now burn fat for fuel, right? Then you give your pancreas the biggest break. You give your pancreas the biggest break. And this even applies to type 1 diabetics. Type 1 diabetics got to be, of course, much more careful because ketoacidosis is a real thing. So I'm not going to suggest this on anybody, but there is a lot of documentation out there. So if you are interested, read, talk to your doctor, whatever. But of course, always talk to your doctor, folks. But the thing is, if you like type 2 diabetes is reversible, folks, right? So I want to say that a million times. It's reversible. And people are reversing it every single day. You can reverse it before you get there, right? And it's proof. I mean, we've always known that if you're borderline, you can change your diet or exercise. Exercise is a good thing as well, too. Exercise is great because it gets the glucose going. It depletes glycogen. It depletes your muscle glycogen, depletes your liver glycogen, so you can use the glucose that's in your blood, right? You can only do that so much, though, right? And that's the thing. If the argument sometimes about do you need carbohydrates in your diet? Well, the assumption is that of course you need carbohydrates in your diet. It's not true. Your body, your liver can produce glycogen. Sorry, your liver can produce glucose, right? I've heard a couple different figures. I'm not really sure, but I've heard anywhere from just 100 grams of carbohydrates a day your liver can produce. But then I've also heard that your body can produce, or your liver can produce, around 60 grams of glucose per 100 grams of protein if it needs it. So it's all on a demand-driven state. So gluconeogenesis, it's very detailed, it's very intricate, it's very complicated, but that's just a little bit about it. So your body can produce it, right? So that means that there's no dietary need for it. And the next thing I want to talk about, what happens when you switch, right? Try it. Again, I always say try 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, as long as you can try it. I tried it every 30 days for a year, for 2 years. I still go through battles, guys. But that's the thing, if you can switch that gear, right? Burn fat for fuel, right? Not only if you have body fat to lose, first of all, everybody has body fat. Of course, we need it. A lot of people have body fat to lose. I have 30 pounds, maybe more. Who knows how much I have to lose? I don't care. But I do care, of course. But it's like everybody has something to lose, right? And you can tap into it easier. You can lose weight by starving yourself on a low calorie diet. You can lose weight by going on a low fat diet, right? But it's not sustainable. You're going to crash. You're going to have cravings like crazy and all this stuff. And that's another reason why this is good. I'm going to get into this. When you eat a low carbohydrate diet and you convert, you flip the switch, you turn yourself into a fat burning machine. You have no longer a problem with the stuff that's on your body as fat. And I'll tell you why. We store fat because we can't store carbohydrates, right? Fat is where the vitamins, is where all the nutrients, is where the most bioavailable nutrients come from, is fat and animal protein. That's it. That's why our bodies are the best at using it, and our bodies are the best at using it, transporting it, storing it, right? If we have excess fat and excess calories, yes, our body will still store it as fat, of course. But one of the good things about eating a ketogenic diet and a low carbohydrate diet is that it's almost self-regulating. And that sounds crazy, I know. If you eat a lot of carbohydrates now, if you eat a lot of, first of all, if you eat a lot of plants right now, you're eating a lot of carbohydrates. Not that many plants have fat in it, right? Not that many plants at all. Unless you're chugging vegetable oil with, I hope to God, if you're chugging vegetable oil, thank you for watching this, but you need a lot more help than I can give you. Nobody's chugging vegetable oil, of course. If you're chugging coconut oil, if you're chugging olive oil or avocado oil, great, they're not terrible for you, right? They're not terrible for you, but you need protein. Where are you going to get that protein from? Again, the best bioavailable protein is animal protein. So let's get back to it again. When you tap into your body fat, when you have the ability to burn fat for fuel, right? Many things happen. One of the things happen is you don't have to eat every hour. You don't have to eat every 2 hours. You don't have to eat every 3 hours or 4 hours or 5 hours or 6 hours and 7 and 8, 9, 10. People, you don't have to eat for 24 hours if you don't want to. You don't have to eat for 48 hours if you don't want to. I didn't eat for 72 hours. Again, I'm not telling you to do that, but people have done it for way, 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 way longer. Okay. You have body reserves. We evolved to work this way. It's not controversial. Everybody knows, right? In science and medicine and all that, how ketosis works. It's not a mystery. There's millions of people doing it. We're all alive. Some people say we're thriving. I feel like I'm thriving, right? So far. So it's not a mystery, right? It works. What happens when your body's using fat for fuel? I've talked about this many times. I'm going to talk about it again. When your body's using fat for fuel and it has access to fat when it needs it, you're not going to have those cravings. You're not going to eat all the time. You're not going to want to be eating 1 or 2 or 3 hours, every 2 hours, whatever. And this is a big thing. This is a big thing, right? This is the relationship changer. You want to talk about game changer? This is the game changer. Not being tied to food, like, sorry, not being owned. I'm not owned by food anymore, right? Luckily we have food all around us, right? But I'm not driven by food. I'm not a slave to food, right? I'm not chasing the white dragon. Like, sugar is the white dragon, right? I mean, joke about it, but I shouldn't joke about it because it's not even funny. But the truth is that it's liberating. It's liberating to go a whole day at work without eating and coming home at night and having steak and eggs or whatever it is, right? I'm not starving myself. I'm not a wimpy, like a shriveling little old man who can't walk up the stairs or whatever. And I mean, like, and it's just amazing that, like, what you can do and the freedom you can get from food, and that's part of it, right? So why do we have high blood sugar? Why do we, if we have chronic high blood sugar, right, and if we're approaching type 2 diabetes, and I actually have a couple of type 1 diabetics. I want to get a hold of you guys. I want to talk to you guys because there's options. That, give a shout out to Zopper. I think you've been dabbling with some keto stuff. So that's the thing. If you can tap into it and you can not be driven by food and not be a slave to food every couple hours or whatever it is, and what happens is you're not reliant on your willpower. Funny, sometimes people say, oh my God, you have such strong willpower. I've learned a lot and I've gotten better. Yes, but how? I've gotten better because I've taken that thing that kept on fucking pulling me in. I've taken that out. And the more you take it out and the longer you take it out, sorry, I'm not trying to yell at anybody, but the more often you practice taking that out and the more often you practice keeping that out, right, it changes your relationship with food. And this is one of the biggest things I have. I think this is one of the biggest roadblocks people have with first of all, I think with maybe the whole idea of meat itself. I don't know. People who are against meat, maybe this is part of it. But I know that when people are trying to lose weight, and I was one of those people, and I'm still one of those people, if I was trying to lose weight on a low calorie diet, right? You're always hungry. Obviously, it's low calorie, right? But only are always hungry, you're not going to lose weight. You're not going to lose weight for very long because you're not going to stay on it. If you do stay on it, you're going to be so stressed out, and that's going to take your willpower. And that's what I want to talk about. The real willpower, the real crazy obsessive willpower. And I don't have it very well, I'm telling you, because if I had that kind of willpower, I would have lost 120 pounds 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when I tried a low fat, low calorie diet. That's what I want to talk about. It's not about willpower. It's about finding what works, but also I want to stop tiptoeing around the idea of everything may work for you. Yes, there's nuance, but this fucking works, people. Excuse my language. This works because it's natural. This is the way our bodies work. Our bodies respond very, very well to this. And people are seeing it every single day, day and night. It's not going to be the same diet for everybody. It's not going to be the same exact recipe of this much carbs, this much fat, this much protein, or whatever it is. But it's definitely the same shift. Lower the carbohydrates. Not only because lower carbohydrates are better for blood sugar, better for insulin levels, better for fat loss, better for all-cause mortality goes down, or your life gets better in general when your blood sugar is lower. That's just it. It's not controversial. It's not controversial. Of course, within the safe range, right? Higher blood sugar, regular, in the middle range, low, red out is good, right? It's better. Your relationship's going to change with food if you do that. Trust me, it will change. And then everything else changes. Not everything else, but lots of things with food changes. But it's a mind mess, right? It's a head spinner because, like I said, I think this is the gating factor for a lot of people. The thing that holds a lot of people back is that they somehow think that meat is not good, or they somehow think to themselves, "There's no way fruit and vegetables could be bad. There's no way all the stuff that Mother Nature provides, God provides, whatever you want to say, it's true. God provides fruits and vegetables. God provides meat. God provides animals. God provides everything if you say that, right? But at the same time, the earth provides everything. So there's no way that anything on earth is bad for you? Sure, there's poison, there's danger, there's fire, there's lava, there's all this stuff. So we have to remember, folks, and I don't want to get into too much of a rant, but none, you know, barely any of the fruits that we have in our grocery store were here a couple hundred years ago, definitely 1,000 years ago, right? Evolution takes tens of thousands, of hundreds of thousands, of millions of years to happen, right? Not 100 years. So all these fruits, all these high sugar fruits, all this high level of glucose in our diet, high level of carbohydrates in our diet, we're inundated by it all the time, all the time, all the time, right? At the same time, folks, we've been told that fat is our enemy for a long time. This is Fatso radio. Fat, so what? Right? It's not the fat that's the problem. It's sure high fat and high carbs together. I always say that's wrong, right? Don't get that wrong, folks. Don't do high fat and high carbs. That's the standard American friggin' diet, standard Canadian diet, standard Western diet, probably even the standard Eastern diet almost now. That's the problem, right? It's so much driven by food and money and the fact that you're driven. It's hard to make money off of people that are carnivore. I'm going to talk about that maybe. It's not as hard to make money out of people that are keto because there's a product for everybody now. Not as hard to make money out of people that are paleo as well because there's a product for everybody. Very easy to make money out of people that are vegan. Very easy because you can almost convince them that everything they need is your produced, right? If you're a vegan and you don't eat just what grows from the ground, right? Then you have to eat a product. You have to eat a man-made product. So, again, we're not comparing all the diets, but I'll do another episode on that. But your relationship with food changes. You're not driven by food. It's harder to make money off of you. So, of course, these big food industries and big pharma industries and anybody who has money invested in making money off of shit food and drugs, right? You don't have to think there's a grand conspiracy. It's just common sense. If you're sick, if I'm sick, and you're making money off of drugs, you don't really need me to get better. You can say you wish me to get better, sure, but you don't need me to get better. In fact, your company doesn't need me to get better. In fact, your company's mission statement is to make money, mostly, right? Most of the companies around there, there's definitely the pharmaceutical business, and the junk companies, right? So anyway, the idea is it can change your relationship with food, and it will change your relationship with food to a better state. Give it a shot. And I think that's a lot of the resistance, right? How can you go? So if you're a vegetarian or a vegan or a high carbohydrate diet eater, and you go on a 1 day fast or 2 day fast or 3 day fast, you can do it on a 7 day fast. It's possible. I'm not going to say it's not possible, right? It's easier if you're keto. It's easier for a carnivore. It's easier if you even attempt it with paleo or low carb because it's closer to that. So what does that tell you? If you think it's valuable to do that as a vegetarian or as a vegan, as a high carbohydrate eater, remember how hard it was to do that? It's easier to do it when you're keto and carnivore. Believe me. If I eat once a day anyway, you tell me to go on a 23-hour fast. Okay, meal times tomorrow, right? Like it's not a stretch, and it's not even hard. One of the things that I do want to say as well, and I'll kind of wrap this up, but if you are going to switch, if you are going to attempt this, I do endorse it, of course, right? Again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not giving you medical advice, but this is common sense. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of doctors now doing it, so look at them. Dr. Barry, Dr. Nally, Dr. Sean Baker, amazing, Zach Bitter, all these guys, Dr. Paul Saladino, of course, how can I forget Saladino? All these guys, so many more. Check them out. If you are going to do it, I don't suggest people go right to intermittent fasting, although it's super, super popular and super, super attractive right now, right? If I eat twice a day or I eat once a day only, or a certain window to eating, people are losing weight. And that's the thing, guys. The internet is crazy. There's every single, I didn't even talk about the sugar in my background. Do you guys like it? It's kind of new. Anyway, for those watching on YouTube, I got sugar in my background just because it's the theme. But what was I saying? Ah, shit, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, if you remember ketosis, I don't know. Let's wrap it up. Um, what was I talking about? Anyway, again, so change your relationship to food, folks. Change your relationship to food. Ketosis, you will, it's, you know, you'll lose weight. You can get you in a better state, and that's it. Give it a shot. Oh, fasting. Now I remember. Sorry, fasting. Whew, Friday night. It's been a long week. If you're gonna do it, I don't suggest that you go right to the fasting right away. I suggest you play with paleo, the idea of removing all processed food first. Let's do that. If you're at that level, awesome. Let's next go to the next level. Let's let's remove some grains. Let's remove all the grains. Let's remove all the beans. Let's remove some dairy. As milk, I would remove maybe if milk's a problem for you. If it's not, it's not. Go with whole milk or whatever. But definitely go get away from anything fat free. As far as dairy, stay away from fat free meats, but like whole foods, real kind of paleo-ish, low carb. Um, and then, you know, I would do the keto first. The reason why I would suggest do this because, and I don't know if any, I'm sure there's medical, I mean, I'm sure there's medical reasons behind this, but my thought, and maybe I did hear this from whatever, but if you're going to be intermittent fasting, that means you're relying on your body, your ability to tap into fat stores, right? That means if you want to take advantage of autophagy, right, where it's like your body is kind of getting rid of and cleaning and detoxifying and eating up the bad cells, you know, blah, 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 eating them up. It does that because it doesn't have any food to do that in the current state. But if you're not tapped into ketosis, or if you've not been adapted or done it enough to really, it's going to be, first of all, it's going to be brutal, right? Like every time you do that, it's going to be very, very difficult. And that's why I honestly believe that people deserve a medal, right? You fast, and you're a normally high carbohydrate eater, and you fast for a day, or you go, first of all, if you could go 5 hours and you're a high carbohydrate eater, it's probably very difficult unless you're an athlete. Because if you're in good shape and you work out a lot, you probably have that ability to tap into your fat source, right? But if you're pretty sedentary, you're probably not going to go 8 hours without food. And if you are, you're going to want to punch everybody in your house or just eat everything in sight after the 8 hours. Don't do that. It can work for you maybe if you like that. Some people go like cold turkey, right? Some people like go all or nothing. That's a little bit hard. I went paleo first. I went low carb, then keto, and then with keto, the reason why I went to carnivore is because it was completely natural. I'm like, I'm eating once a day. I'm eating lettuce with mostly meat, like an ounce of lettuce in it. What's the point anyway? And then I'm eating meat, and I was eating once a day. So I'm like, okay. As I went to carnivore at the same time, it became basically once a day eating, 23-hour window, sometimes 22-hour window. Sometimes I eat an hour, and then there's like a 3-hour window, so it's 20, whatever that is, 19 hours, or 20 hours, 21 hours. But yeah, and so I do think that intermittent fasting is awesome for a bunch of reasons, but I would suggest that people try the low carb thing for a while, get into ketosis, get used to it, because you're going to be hangry, you're going to be like low blood sugar, right? Why is it, if you're not, that's the other thing about low blood sugar, which is another episode, I guess. But if you can't tap into your fat stores easily, right, because of something like insulin resistance, or because your body's getting bad at doing it for whatever reason, because of high chronic blood sugar levels, um, then like that's your, if you can't tap into that, that's where low blood sugar comes from, like hypoglycemia, right? My blood sugar is low. Why is your blood sugar low? Your blood sugar is not low because you have a low blood sugar diet and your body's just craving it. Blood sugar is low because you have a high carbohydrate diet, and it hasn't been that, and it's been some time since you've eaten it, and your body needs it, right? Think about that. Peace, everybody. I love you. I love you all. I love you all. This episode is brought to you by Volpe Martial Arts. Again, like always, like every episode, I had an awesome class last night. Love you, Sifu Adam. And this episode is also brought to you by Papa Earth. Check out papaearth.ca for more details. Use code word FATSO meat. Save yourself some cash. $10 on a small box, $20 on a big box. Also, don't forget to email me, write to me, send pictures to me, send questions to me. I haven't done a question and answer thing in a long time. Actually, I want to do a question and answer thing, but I haven't done the questions in a long time. Check me out on Facebook, of course, the Facebook group, Fatso Radio, Fatso with a question mark, radio, RADIO. I have a Facebook group as well, Fatso Radio, No Bullshit and Diet group or something like that. Check that out. Jamie, pull it up. I don't have a Jamie, but lastly, of course, so Instagram, Fatso Radio on Instagram. Every morning, folks, I do my 70, 70, 70. Just my way of saying, hey, I'm doing something. Maybe you're doing it too. Maybe you need motivation. So 70, 70, 70 is my 70 pushes, my 70 crunches, my 70 squats. I started at 20, went to 30 every month or so. It's March coming up soon. Wow, I hope I don't. Okay, it's halfway through. Not bad. I'm at 70. It's a lot of fun. It's hard. Yes, it's hard. I do that. Fatso Radio on Instagram. Radio Fatso on Twitter. Send me something. Send the word. Press whatever it is. Also, email me, fatsoradio@gmail.com. I have the domain Fatso Radio, and I gotta set that up. Someone, I don't know, someone email me if you want to do some work for free, help me with websites and stuff like that. Email me, fatsoradio@gmail.com. If you have someone in mind, you want to be a guest on my show that I would love to have on a guest, send me. I love it. I'm getting pitches. It's amazing. I'm spreading the word, and it's growing. It's been over a year now, folks. Episode number 54, whatever. 54. Amazing. I love you all. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys, from the bottom of my heart. I love you. Each and every one of you. Like I said, it doesn't matter what diet we're eating, right? We're doing it as long as we're doing it with the right intention, and as long as we're doing our best. I think that's the best thing. But we're always going to learn. We always need to learn more. So, peace. Have a great day. I love you all.